Have a packed house right now. Okay, speaker. Hello, gorgeous people. It's so nice to see everyone. Hello, letting everyone in. Okay. I've got a special call for you. I've got Barbara Henslee. Kim, tell me if I'm pronouncing your names wrong. Kim Rossi Noyes.
It's Noyes, yes.
Noyes. And Craig Abbott. And we are going to have a lovely chat and just dish the dirt. I want to talk to, we see each other every day and we're all friends and everything. And I want to provide you guys with coaches and some of the narrators like Barbara Rosenblatt. Oh my God, I was like stuttering the first 15 minutes of the call. Just because, we want to know, their glittered and storied past, but these guys have a glittered past as well. I've got a question about that motorcycle, Kim. So I want to dish the dirt and I want to have a talk about the industry from different perspectives. And I'm going to start with, I've got you up on the screen. So 10-year-old Kim.
Oh, okay. 10-year-old Kim.
Tell me about her.
The picture that I sent you for the Christmas thing.
Oh.
That was actually, I was 10 at that time. At 10, I solidified a lifelong friendship with my cousin that she's in that picture. We started when we were babies. She was born December, I was born March. But then she went moving and living all over the place. But then came back closer when I was 10.
Oh.
We took a trip up the coast. From California moving to Illinois, we took a trip up the coast in her camper with her family.
Wow.
So we got to be really close. I got my first crush on a boy that was a friend of their family that was living in Seattle, who's British. He had long blonde hair.
Good taste evident at an early age. So
but with joy, and I had a conversation because of this show. I had a conversation with her a couple weeks ago where I told her, I said, you know what, when we were growing up, you were the only one who really saw me. When we got together, we would read. And she always wanted me to read stories to her. And then all the cousins would get together and I would decide that we needed to put on a play. And I would write this thing out and it's like, you're this and you're that, and these makeshift costumes and the Ghost of John. I remember doing that. And yeah, I mean, we would get together and do these grandiose, weird things when I was 10. And I was always the one who was like, oh, let's do this, and making the performance happen. So
have you seen the movie My Brilliant Friend, or the TV show? There's a series of audiobooks on it. I'll find the link for you after the show. There were two young girls, and if you look at the beginning of it, it was quite like they would read books. They had a favorite book they'd read together. It was in Italy, a whole different thing, and ended up being a toxic relationship. So I'm not saying
no.
Check it out. Are you still friends?
Yes, we're extremely different though. She got her PhD from the University of Chicago. She runs a museum and teaches at a college. She, when she was getting her degree, she got her master's in Taipei, Taiwan, and argued it in Mandarin. I've done none of those things. I got out of high school and went to college and then on to radio. So we are very different, but we are still thick as thieves. It's like when she was going to the University of Chicago. Yeah, when she went to the University of Chicago and she got mugged one day after the cops, I was her second phone call.
Oh, wow.
to, and there were, when she was living overseas in China and then in Taiwan, sometimes we didn't talk for months. We would write letters. But it doesn't matter how long we are apart. Right now, like she said to me, 'cause she is very analytical. She is very much a professor. So she's like, we need to stay in touch. I'm going to make a schedule so that we talk at least once a month. If you don't, I'm like, okay, Joy.
Okay, so this is my question, two questions actually. So do you
Hmm.
think that having a close friendship like that formed your worldview in that it gave you a safe landing place that always felt like home?
Yes. And I
So,
do believe that I was that for her too, because like I said, her family moved and moved and moved. I am literally the only person that has known her since she was a baby.
so do you think it helped your confidence in jumping out into different areas and trying what you
Yes.
wanted in life? So when you were 10 years old, were you already thinking about your future, or were
Oh,
you
oh
just
yeah.
living in the moment?
Oh no, I was going to be, well, we were putting on shows. I knew I needed to perform somehow, and I'm going to be a writer, or I'm going to play my guitar and sing or whatever. I knew I was going to be doing something, and I always drug her out to make her perform with me.
So was there a time in your life when that drive and that determination and that belief was stalled? Because do you know how the world sometimes
Oh
likes to
yeah.
kick people in the face that have big
And it's
dreams?
like at the same time that with everybody, because when I graduated from high school, I was going to go to college. And I remember having a conversation with my sister saying I was going to, pursue drama. And then I started going to be a systems analyst.
Why?
Because I was really good at hated writing code. Oh my God, I hated writing code. But I was really good at looking other people's code and picking out the problems. And it was safe. It was safe.
So was it a
It was
conscious choice? Was it, I'm not going to pursue the dream because I need some
right.
safety?
It's scary. It's
Yeah,
scary. And it's like, how am I going to make a living? How am I going to, am I good enough? It was all of those questions that you have at yourself. It's like, I'm not good enough, or I can't. So yeah,
yeah.
off I went
Okay.
to do that. And then I did 2 years of college and said, screw this, heard an ad for a tech school that taught radio, and off I went in that direction. But that had,
Okay.
at the end of that schooling, there was pretty much a sure job. At the time, there was like, when I went to broadcasting school, there was 50 students, four were women.
I've
So
heard it
the
was like
girls got hired.
brutal. Yeah,
Girls
yeah.
got hired.
Yeah, but did you get like sexually harassed in the office place
Oh
when
yeah.
you got hired? Did you have to? So it's funny, as Chad says, great heavens, 37 years as a programmer systems analyst here, now retired. So I'm noticing it. Okay, now we're going to leave you at this jumping off point, and I'm
Okay.
going to come back to you, and I'm going to jump to Craig.
Hello?
Craig, and you guys, this is just random. I'm going to switch who I jump to back and forth through the call.
Oh,
So 10-year
yes.
old Craig, you seemed shocked when I asked you to be on the call. You do know that you were referred by Anna Clements because you had done a clubhouse. Um,
Hmm.
you had done a clubhouse call, and I really want a good mix of you know what I mean, of
Sure.
people, and Anna spoke very, very highly of you. And I love your website and um your description, because I've got this image of this like skateboarding, game playing grandpa. And I like that. And actually, you inspired me because I did a couple of pub reach outs today,
Oh,
and it inspired me. I was like, I have to put something in about myself.
okay.
So I put in the bit about my budgie learning to say where the body's buried. In retrospect, I'm not sure if you inspired me in a good way or if I'm going to regret it.
Yeah.
Tell me about 10-year-old Craig.
So I don't know if they still do it, but when I was 10 in the fifth grade, I was in what they called a split class. So what they did is they held over the same teacher that we had for the fourth grade. They held over like 10 kids that would enter the fifth grade, but had to stay with that fourth grade teacher. for fifth grade, and
Oh,
the rest of the class was she was teaching fourth grade stuff that we had already learned, and then she would spend some time with us on our fifth grade stuff.
were
So it
you
was very
pissed off?
bizarre.
I would feel really like
Well, yeah, because
upset.
all the people that we knew, all our friends that were in the fourth grade with us, went to this other teacher, who, by the way, was the fun teacher,
Yep.
and we got stuck with the stodgy teacher, the boring stodgy teacher. So not only did we not get away from her, we had to stay, and we didn't get away from her, and we didn't get to go to the fun class, but we had to stay in her class and do her class twice. So, but the 10 of us that were in there over time bonded, and we had good friendships there. And for me, my plans were always at that time I was writing a lot. My friend and I would write stories, and we'd critique each other's stories, and
So you
we'd
had a
write some.
best friend too. I'm noticing a theme. Was it like a best friend?
It was a best friend, but I had several best friends. They would only they were temporary best friends, and I don't know. I can't remember the transitions, but there
Okay.
was always at least one person. In high school, my best friend and I had lockers next to each other, and we were in 5 of the 6 classes, same classes. So
So you got
uh,
along with who you were
close
around
to
and became
proximity.
friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I haven't seen him since we graduated. So
I'm kind of that
it's
way.
weird.
Like you leave a
Yeah,
job and they were your very best friend in the whole world, and then like you can't remember their name 6 months later. Not that I would ever
exactly.
do that to any of you guys,
No, no, not,
obviously.
none of us. No, we're lifers. But
So were you a
yeah,
dreamer? Were you creative? What were you doing when you were 10?
yeah. I've always been creative. I've always been creative, but analytical. So I was remembering in that fifth grade class, our big deal was to go to Cedar Point, which is in Sandusky, Ohio. It's about a 4-hour drive from where I live, and it's the nearest amusement park. Um, and so on the way back from that, all the other kids were, messing around on the bus and playing with stuff that they bought. And I remember this girl and I from that split class were sitting right behind the driver, right behind the bus driver. And in my paper notebook, I was dragging my pen across the page as evenly as I could so I could record the bumps in the road. And I did that all the way home. And then I handed it to the bus driver and I said, "Here's a record of your driving skills." And
I'm
the
getting a
girl I was
picture.
yeah, and the girl I
Year
was with
old
was
Craig.
like, she's like, "You're kind of a nerd, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." So, but I was always measuring things. I was always taking things apart to see how they worked and asking why, and that really followed me into my corporate career. And but I was always and I just found this out a couple months ago, because I don't have an acting background, and whenever acting came up, it was like they weren't the cool kids. They were the kids we avoided because the drama kids, the kids that were really into those things, performing. Those were the kids we didn't hang around with. But what we did in our stead was we were really big on not necessarily improv, but pretending. Like I grew up with Saturday Night Live and the Not Ready for Primetime Players, and so we would stay up late on Saturday night and watch that, and then Monday at school we would redo all the skits with our friends. But we didn't consider that acting. That was just having fun, pretending to be Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi and Chevy Chase. So, so
Did you do that Dungeons and Dragons stuff?
no, no, that was a different kind of nerd in our school. So we were like we were like the smart kids that were nerdy in a way that um, we like to we like to imitate and do impressions, and it was yeah.
So did
So
you have any like vision or like, oh, I want to be this when I grow up, or were you just like a kid living in the moment kind of thing?
um, it's weird because I did want from an early age I did want to become an architect. I thought that was the coolest job in the world, and I admired people like Frank Lloyd Wright, and I pursued that until I found out it's one of those professions where if you're not really good, you don't exist. So nobody hires a crappy architect because they're a crappy architect, right? So when I got into the point of turning things in, you know, I went to college early for drafting. I wasn't a great student, but somehow I fooled enough people to think I was, and I got into an early class in college, and so I was competing with these freshmen in college my senior year, and my drawings just weren't as good as theirs. And
Because you
you know,
were,
part
but
of that,
you were
but I was a
younger.
year younger, yeah. So you know, so I cried foul, and it wasn't fair. Life's not fair. But I really enjoyed. I enjoyed all of the subject matter, all the information, the history, the knowledge, everything about architecture. I just wasn't that good at my drawing. And I
Wait,
also,
do you think that do you think with a different mindset that you could have been that good, but maybe you didn't give yourself a chance? Do you ever regret it and think you want to take it back up again?
I don't think I want to take it back up again, but I do think that part of what I've been able to do with narration that I didn't do throughout the rest of my life was get beyond the mediocre, because
Oh, I like
I
that.
I would get to the mediocre plateau and feel like I'm never going to get better. And as soon as I had that feeling of this is, I feel like this is as far as I'm going to go, that's when I would bail. And so, um, you know, because some people will say you can only get so good if you don't have a gift. And that's what I believed. It's like, okay, there are some people that wake up and they can just listen to a song and play the piano. I get that. There are other people that can learn to play the piano and be really good. But then I had this feeling that I was one of those people that could play the notes but not make music. You know, I was a good technician, but I didn't it didn't sound right, and it would
Isn't it
never
sad that
sound
people
right.
say that when in reality it's a mixture of the two? Because you could be born with amazing talent and not put the feet on the ground and practice your craft, and you'll never get anywhere. You're not going to be good. You could be
Yeah.
born with mediocre talent and work 24 hours a day. Because the thing is, who's to say who has great talent and who doesn't have great talent? It's subjective.
Right. And it took me most of my life to figure that out. So
That sucks. I think they should have a class when we're young in school. I really do. I've been thinking
yeah.
this. Like, could you teach us about budgets, please?
Right. Yeah. Balance the
And like
checkbook.
how to make a living and like, you
How
know,
to buy a car.
a little bit of self-esteem so that we don't go for like the absolute worst people in our first seven relationships.
Right.
And
Right.
like things they could teach you some things you could use rather than arguing about the stupid
Yeah.
things they're arguing about now. They could teach us.
Yeah.
I wish
And of
somebody
course
had told. I wish I could go back and tell young Craig, but then you wouldn't be a narrator, and it would be the world's loss.
that's
So,
right. That's right. That's
so
my journey.
I'm going to take you straight to the point, just maybe in one sentence, and then we'll come back and revisit it. But I want to leave
Sure.
off where we left with Kim. What gave you the idea to become a narrator? Like at that point, just very, very briefly, so that we can jump back into it.
To put it into one sentence, I was looking for something that I could do and do it fairly well and have it be something that I could do anywhere on my schedule and pick and choose how I did it
Okay.
after my corporate career was over. That was the
Okay.
plan.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, thank you very much, Craig. We shall revisit it, pick up at this point. I'm going to grab Barbara up on the screen. Barbara,
Hello.
clear your throat or something. 10-year-old Barbara.
Yeah, before I tell you about 10-year-old Barbara, I have to tell you, and I never knew this, but I have something in common with both Craig and Kim. I took a drafting, or no, I signed up for a drafting class in high school. And first day in there, I was the only girl, and I was so intimidated by that. I said, I don't think so. And I walked out and I did something else. But I wanted to be an architect as well. And then also, Kim, after high school, no, while I was in high school, I went to a radio broadcasting studio, and I really wanted to do that. I mean, it was just so cool. But then, life got in the way, and I just, finished high school, did a couple of years of college like you did, and went into the corporate world. Okay, 10-year-old
That
Barbara.
corporate world sucks
I'm
people
telling
in.
you, I'm on my way down. I am down and leaving pretty soon.
Good. I'll throw a party for you when you do, because
Yes,
it'll
you're
be
gonna
the
have
best
to.
day of your life. Okay, 10-year-old Barbara.
10-year-old Barbara was already writing. 10-year-old Barbara was doing spelling bees.
Wow.
And I know I remember writing, I wrote a lot, but I remember one story in particular. Don't ask me to recite it because I don't remember the whole thing, but I did win first prize. And it was, the story was called Curiosity Killed the Cat. So that was fun. And then spelling bees. But the most fun story I can tell you when I was very, very young was my dad was a pilot for the U.S. Navy.
Oh, wow.
And so we didn't travel around, but he was always off and about. And when he would come home for leaves, of course, he wanted to go hang out at the airport and tinker with single engine and double engine planes. So I went with him. My older brother and I went with him a lot. But there were a couple of times when he took me up in the plane with him. And there was one time in particular when my mother was on the ground in the car watching. She didn't like to fly, so she didn't want to go. And he took me in the plane and asked me if I was ready to do some tricks. And I said, well, shoot, yeah. I was fearless even then. Well, he did, not me. He did the roll arounds. He rolled the plane and flew it.
Wow.
Oh my God, it was so fabulous. And then at one point, he asked me if I wanted to fly the plane. So I took the yoke. He said, pull it back gently.
What a great dad, though. What a great dad.
It was a lot of fun, but I did not pull it back gently. I pulled it back like this. And of course, he had to gain control because literally, we went. Oh, it was great. My mother on the ground had a little bit of anxiety.
I can imagine.
I also remember too, there was a couple of times where I mean, this was a lot younger though, and I wanted to hold a play. I wanted to direct a play. So a couple of friends of mine on my street, don't even ask me what the play was about. I don't even remember, but I do remember putting up like a sheet in the garage, and 2 or 3 of us were up there and doing God knows what at this point. And I charged them a nickel. I charged everybody a nickel to come see our play.
But you see, I love that because you can see the spark.
Yeah.
The thing that we all have in common, I think is safe to say, all of us, that we all recognize in each other, is that like kid that wants to we want to put a play on, make something, and show everyone. We don't want to just make it in our room quietly. We want to show everyone.
Exactly.
I love that.
I don't know if it's possible to be both right-brained and left-brained, but I feel like, there was a part of me that really wanted to be creative and really wanted to do things in that way. But there was another part of me that was very responsible too, and, knew what I needed to do to make a living.
Well, if you believe in astrology, you've got your sun and your moon and your rising sign. It's very possible because you can have completely different personalities. Not going to go woo-woo, I promise, but it is very possible.
I'm pretty woo-woo. I'm pretty woo-woo myself. So
have you ever had your chart done? You should have your chart done. I think
I should have my chart done. I haven't had my chart done. I should.
It's possible to be very analytical, but also a complete flake or woo-woo or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so happy kid. Get along in school, lots of friends, best friend, cheerleader. What was it like?
Definitely not a cheerleader. Okay. I was let's see, how can I put this? I was one of the kids that hung around with the not the drama people, not the nerds, but okay, the stoners.
Well, it's a good thing because the drama people aren't cool. According to Greg.
But I mean, that was
Greg has
school.
told
That
us.
was school. But I have a best friend who I met at the age of 13, and we are still friends. And we met each other at the local roller rink.
Oh, I remember that. You remember that?
We went every
Yes.
single Friday and Saturday night. It was the thing for us to do in our neighborhood. So yeah, I mean, I don't talk to her a lot, but when we do, it's like we were never separated, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we just continue on like it was yesterday.
Because the 10-year-old you and the 10-year-old her are still there.
Yeah, totally, completely.
So dreams of being an actress, thoughts of the future, or just living in the moment?
You know, it was living in the moment, but it's really interesting because I mean, I was surrounded by creatives. My sister was a drama major. My stepdaughter was a thespian and still is. She, you know, regional theater and whatnot. My brother and my other sister, artists, you know, drawing. My brother at one point did a whole mural in Austin, Texas. And so, yeah, I was surrounded by it, but I didn't really start thinking about doing this work until 4 years ago.
Okay, so now no spoilers on that because we'll end with the one line when you jump into that. But up until that, it sounds like you did the whole corporate thing and
Yeah.
like was it something you loved, something you enjoyed, or I mean, I did the corporate thing, but it was because it was something I was good at. I hated it.
Totally. I mean, I'm a very positive, very optimistic person, and I will make sunshine out of a rainy day, you know? So it's just what I had to do. It's just what I had to do. And I had fun doing it because why would you do anything else?
Yeah,
You know?
no, I bitched and moaned and whined and told everyone that this was just a quick pit stop on my way to being a famous actress.
Yeah.
Like
My brain
years.
wasn't there. My mind wasn't there yet. You know, it wasn't there till recently.
So where was your mind? Like, what was your driving focus during those years? Just getting by or living in the moment? Where was your mind?
Totally just living in the moment. And I had a boss who actually drew creativity out of me. And that's really where it started about 10
Wow.
years ago. He kept telling me, let's try this. Go try doing this, you know, see if you like it. Go try doing that, see if you like it.
Wow.
And then at one point he said, because I wrote for him, I was a ghostwriter. He was a muckety muck up in, you know, up in the executive level. And I always wrote his emails for him and wrote org announcements and that kind of thing. And he said, you know, you really should do some more writing. And so he prompted me to go and do that. So I just started writing some motivational and inspirational articles. So that's actually where it started.
Okay, so you're writing these articles, which are obviously sinking in, because how did you, so leave us right in, very brief, like maybe a sentence or two, right at the precipice of becoming a narrator.
Yeah.
Like what led you to that moment?
It's relative because I was researching material for an article I was writing about ageism in the workplace. And these articles that I came across, one in particular, was about voice acting. And
about what?
One of the voice acting.
Oh, voice acting.
Voice acting. And one of the pieces in there that just absolutely stuck with me is you can be any age. It doesn't matter how old you are behind the microphone. And that stuck with me. And then, you know, a year or so later, I was thinking I needed to change jobs. And I thought, well, you know, why not think about just leaving the corporate world and doing something like this? I have no idea if I'm going to be any good about it, but, you know, let's try it. So that's what started it. Oh, well, the other piece of it, just real quickly, is 4 years ago, I started a 5-year business plan. See, that's
Did you actually do it? Did you
I'm in 4 years. I am in my
stuck
fourth
to
year.
it?
Yes, yes, ma'am. I am in
And
my 4th year.
where'd you learn how to do that?
Well, that just comes with the corporate side. You work in corporate land for as long as I have, and Craig can attest to this. You just know that in order to get from point A to point B, you have to have a plan.
Yeah. But how do you know what goes into a plan?
Well, it's all up to you. It can be as simple as you want it to be, or it can be as, complex as you want it to be. And my 5-year plan was, okay, you don't know anything about this business. So you've got to read, you've got to get coaching, you've got to network, you've got to, get connected with people that are in the business. So
Yeah.
that's what I've been doing for the last 4 years is networking, coaching, just jumping right in and trying to
Quirky
produce a book.
questions. Your quirky
question. I am
questions, famous. Thank you very much, Barbara. I'm going to jump back to Kim here. We haven't lost you, have we, Kim?
No.
Hello, hello. Okay. So now we're getting to the meat of this. So now I have an ulterior motive here with you guys because
God.
I think that too often we're all on social media and all we see of each other is on social media. And I don't care who you are and if you know any better or not, everyone compares. We're human beings. It's one of the traits of human beings. I kind of wish it wasn't. It drives me crazy. But how do we know who we are if we don't know who everyone else is? But all we're comparing to are the superficial, how many books I have, how many publishers I'm with. I'm not interested in that tonight. What I'm interested in is, and I don't know, to be fair, I'm vaguely lost count of how many books I have at this point or what publishers I'm working for. And I literally don't know how many any of you have or what the difference is. And what I'm really interested in is your feelings when you became a narrator, the parts that you came up against that were difficult, right? Like what you had to kind of overcome, and your feelings now as you do the job as a narrator, and kind of like, do you have challenges? Do you know, what's reward? I want to get past all the how many books I have is who I am, competition, how successful. I want to get past all that and try to remember being in the moment of when you became a narrator and how that felt and 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 what I mean, I can say right now, well, everyone's heard it a million times. Mine was mindset. I was shocked. It was me against me in there and all the negative things that I encountered my whole life. All of a sudden, it was like, it wasn't the rest of the world not giving me what I wanted. It was me saying no. So I've put that little challenge on your plate, Kim, to walk us through becoming a narrator, kind of how it felt, what you encountered as obstacles, how you overcame them, and how you feel today.
Okay. I do remember the first offer that I got.
I
You know,
love hearing first offers.
I do remember, and when I started, I mean, because I did radio, I understand microphones, I understand the software, I understand, there were some things that I had, but jumping in and I was very good. I watched all of the, ACX informational stuff, you do this, you do that, and I did all of that. But I also knew that it's different stuff because radio, you're projecting your voice and you're competing with traffic and people are listening to you and doing other things. So it's a completely different way of delivering.
Yeah.
And it's hard. That's one of my biggest things is to dial it back from that. I'm not doing radio and taking it down a notch or two.
Are you used to it now, or is it still? Because I was in theater, and it's still. I tend to want to play to the back of the room.
Oh yeah, because I did theater too. Yeah, the kids know mommy has a theater voice.
Yeah.
When she needs to get their attention. Yeah, it is. It's something. And I know I was just actually listening to like one of the recent books that I put out there that I was proud of. I was listening back through it, and to me, I hear it and I can hear I hear me edging up on it.
Mm.
I hear me edging towards it, and I'm like, okay, I gotta watch that. I gotta watch that. I gotta watch that. But I felt like a narrator the first time when I came home from my second job, because I was doing radio and then I was working janitorials at a athletic club, and I had done some auditions. And before I ever did any auditions, like I sat in my booth and I practiced. I practiced with the software, and I just pulled up articles and read them and practiced and practiced and practiced. Then
And
I
what
started
was your motivation? What was your like, oh, I want to be able to move out of what I'm doing, or oh my God, this sounds like a dream. What was your motivation at this time?
Well, at the time I was working at a radio station where I was on air. I was also running the front desk, and I was doing traffic, and I was doing billing, and I was pretty much wearing 4,000 hats. Hated my bosses. They are known around here. And I wanted to get out of there, but I didn't know I was actually trying to get in with one of the other radio groups, but there's not that many around here. And a guy that started working for us, he's like, "Hey, Kim, have you ever thought about doing narration?" Because he did it. He was one of the things that he did. And he's the one who gave me all the information. He kept pushing me. He's like, "Did you look into it yet? Did you check?" Because like everybody, I'm not good enough. I just kept thinking, And he's like, "No, you'll be great at it. You'll be great at it."
It's Mr. Rogers, one of his helpers. Look for the helpers. I love
Yeah.
that.
So he pushed me, and it was great to have him as a source of information and to, help with stuff. And after I got I got home from working janitorial, and it was an early night because the club had some sort of after prom party in there. So we had to wrap up early, and I came home and I sat down at the computer, and my family's in the other room, and I pull up my ACX thing, and I'm like, I got an offer. And then right on that, I got a second offer. So I got an offer for a collection of spooky like mid-school level scary stories, and then cozy mystery. And it was boom, boom. They were
Wow.
right share, but I remember getting
None
this,
of
and
that
then
matters when you get your first book. It's like,
right. I was so super psyched about it. And then of course that, the first time you hit I'm done. And then a few weeks later you get that email saying it's gone live. And of course you go and you check and you look, oh my God, I'm there. Do you see I'm there? And from day one of doing my first book, I knew I couldn't stop. I mean, I've had discussions with my husband because we're talking about, we're right now in the middle of selling properties and buying new properties, and it's a flipping nightmare. But talking about what we want moving forward, and I told him, I said, because that's one of the prerequisites, looking at houses, like how close is it to the airport? Is it next to the train tracks? Where
because
can I put
once
the studio?
don't. And I always said that when they told me, why are you doing Cup of Joe shows? And all these, part-time actors are just going to like come into the industry. And I'm like, if you're a narrator, you're a narrator. You've got no choice once you start. You've just got no choice.
Yeah, and my husband has told me before, there was a short period of time that I was not doing radio and I was not doing anything creative. He's like, you have to do something creative or you're going to make me crazy.
So what about the low? So I'm going to kind of change the format on you halfway through. So we've got the high with the first book, and guys, get prepared. I'm going to ask you that. It's too good. I want to know. Now so let's move from, I want to get the lowest point and how you got through that, and then not in life, but in narrating and audiobooks, because everyone's had like a dry spell or something where they've, and then also where you are now and what you do, what you've learned to overcome that.
Well, and Danielle, you've talked about this before, about you get the books that you need.
Yeah.
And yeah, that kind of go hand in hand with your life. That's sort of how things have worked for me. And I did have a really big dry spell. And it partly was my own fault. Um, because I didn't do what I was supposed to. I had authors that wanted to work with me. I just didn't reach out to them, even though they said, "Oh, I want you to do my next book and I'll pay you this." I was thinking, "Oh, they don't really want to."
Yeah.
No, they already said that they wanted to. Why didn't I just reach? But I didn't. Um, I took when I was taking Joel Frumkin's class, acting for audio, which is amazing. Nancy was in the class with me. That was so amazing. At the time, I had no books. When I was working through that class, I didn't have any books. And because I was still working, I really didn't feel like I had time to do a book on top of that. So I was only kind of haphazard auditioning, and I wasn't getting anything. And I was not getting anything. At the same time that I started the acting class, I also started doing counseling in my, real life. And I tell you, acting class, because you really have to start digging into your motivations. I felt like I was splayed open for several months there, doing both at the same time. It's just like, oh my God, this is ugly and awful. And who am I? But the acting class was absolutely, especially since I hadn't done any real acting besides radio since high school.
Yeah.
It is such that is such an amazing class that he does. It pulls you through. And I was, it's like, I can't get a book. Am I that awful? Why doesn't anybody want to hire me? And you kind of go down this rabbit hole. But it's like I said, because you can't stop. Even though I was doubting myself and I thought nobody wants me to read them a book, I couldn't stop if I wanted to. I just had to keep trying, and I had to keep going. And then, of course, once I got some traction, and I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I should reach out to that one author that I was doing. And she's like, yes, please. I want you to do 4 books for me. And can
You're
you
like,
take
so
over the
who was
series?
holding me back? Oh, it was me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
how does it feel now? As a
It
tried in
feels
the
now
blue,
like it's
you are a narrator. You're like a, old school narrator. How does
I
it
feel,
feel?
well, for one thing, I mean, the fun of it is that, like you say, you never get perfect. You just get to keep growing. And I love that aspect. It's like learning more and more, okay, oh, with this doing this for this story, or doing this for this story, or using this voice, learning and learning and learning and learning is amazing with the performance aspect of it. That is so much fun to me. And it feeds me just to be able to do it. I could not stop if I wanted to. And the fact that I actually have rights holders, they're independent. I've done one book for Pink Flamingo. So I have done, it's like, I know the reason that I haven't worked for publishers is just because I haven't pursued it.
But I know, see,
haven't
but
pursued it.
that's right there. Because some of the veteran narrators are now having to learn how to go out and get indie jobs, never having done it, having worked in studios. It is literally becoming an open, even playing field. Whereas I hate the fact, and it really tortured me for a while in this industry, the whole, are you an ACX narrator or are you a publisher narrator? And how many of us out here did not go through that? Oh my God, everyone else has all the publishers all at once. Why don't I? And then threw our money away on things that were going to teach us the magic secret. And if you haven't yet, look at the Michael Kostroff 3 free videos on auditioning. It's like, he's so right. He's just so right. There is no magic hat you can wear. That's what you said about doing those auditions. There's no magic. There's no everybody hates me. Why can't I work? There's no magic hat. The only time there is something and it is you is, where's your mindset? Because you had jobs sitting out there waiting for you and you were
Right.
like not seeing them.
And I was not seeing them. And I had, when I started, like after I got done with the class with Joel, I started doing auditions again, and I kept getting shortlisted. I kept getting that, we've got it down to like 4 people and you're one of them. And then I wouldn't get it. It's just like, okay, I am good enough to get there. I just can't get it over the finish line. And it's just like, oh my God.
Random. It is so random. And it literally, and somebody explained something to me that, like, because authors get approval now, a lot of authors have approval. So depending on the book you're going for, the publisher might have loved you the most. Do you know what I mean? But the author, someone sounded like their grandma, or someone didn't sound like their grandma. You know what I mean? So literally that's what's happening. So that is how random it is. So the only thing we can do is what Johnny Heller has been telling us to do from day one, is look in the mirror and face ourselves and make ourselves better. You know what I mean? And not try to make ourselves popular, because if you go through a dry spell, all it means is the style right now, what they might be looking for might not be what you sound like, but don't change what you sound like, because the style is going to change in 3 months. You know what I mean?
And those videos from Kostroff are so amazing. Yeah, I watch those, and it's like every time I audition, it's like, okay, the job is auditioning. The job is auditioning.
Yep, what is it? I mean, bad language, but you're not going to book the effing job. It's just assume you're not, and then, do it in bulk and have fun. And it's hard. It's easy when you don't really care, but when you really wanted a book, it's really hard. But it's easier because you just know it's true. It's a hard message, but it's so much easier to hear because you know it's true. Okay, I am going to, in the interest of getting the others, thank you so much, Kim. You are a mensch. This was fabulous. I'm going to grab Barbara. Barbara.
Okay.
We've taken you right to, you want to become an audiobook narrator. You'd read about it. And so the 3 points I want to hit on here are, I love what Kim did. I want to hear the first book and how it felt. I want to hear the struggles, what you had to overcome, and the lowest point, how you got over it, and how you are now.
Okay. All right. So the very first book that I was offered, ACX, I was taking a technical class. I was learning how to produce, not necessarily how to act, but produce. And while I was taking that class, we learned how to build our profile on ACX, and I did that, and I got an offer, and I was so excited. And I came back to the class and I said, I got an offer. And the teacher said, don't do it. Don't even do it. Just ignore it. Anytime we put profiles up on ACX, you're going to get scam offers.
Oh, was it a 30-minute keto book?
No, it wasn't. It was a science fiction book. And I did not listen to my teacher. I went ahead and did the book. It was my very first book, so it stunk. It was no good. The writing was horrible, but I did it. And so, and then after that, I started doing a bunch of, I did 2 books for Learning Ally. So that was how I really got my feet wet.
How did it feel when you were like doing your first book? Was it like,
it was,
I love this. This is scary. I don't remember. I'm in a haze.
No, Daniela, I am fearless to a fault. And if I have my mind set on something, and by that time I had my mind set and it hasn't changed, I just dive right in, and I might not be any good at it, but that's the way you learn. That's the way I learn, is you just dive in and do it. So, yeah. So, I mean, I was struggling because wasn't an actor. So my struggles was not being a good actor, right? And I'm not blaming myself. I didn't have any acting experience, but I did start doing some coaching. And Johnny Heller was the very first coach that I had a one-on-one with.
Ooh, good
And
shot.
Carol Monda was later. I did the 5-week thing.
You
with
went
Carol
straight
Monda.
to the heavyweights.
I went straight to the heavyweight, and it was so funny because I had an ACX audition that I wanted to work on. It was a ridiculous book. But we went through the coaching session, and at the end, I said to him, I said, well, Johnny, do you think that I have any chance in hell with this job, with this career? And he, you know how he does. Well, Barbara, you don't suck. So I said, okay.
That's all you need, isn't it?
I will take that. So that's all it took. And then I also took Joel Frumpkin's class a couple of years ago. Yes, he's wonderful. I took the 2 years, and while I was taking that class, I was offered a book by Fireside, doing a horror book. That was when Joe, what's his name? Hempel. Joel Hempel had the company at that time. So I was super excited. It's the little bitty baby steps, right?
Did you appreciate them when they came, or did you always think you should be doing more?
Oh, no, definitely appreciative, because I'm so new and so green.
I love that though, because you were like that when you were a kid too, weren't you? You're
totally.
You're good at noticing the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
So my lowest point I just had recently, right? So late last year, I did actually 2 books for Blackstone. It was a dual. And then I did a multicast for Blackstone. And that was like but hold on. That was like September or October. And then nothing. So through like March, it was just absolutely nothing. So what do? You don't give up. You don't throw in the towel. You just do the other things that you need to do, which is take more classes. Go look at public domain books. Do you want to do a public domain book? What can I do? I can do marketing. I can do reach outs. So during that lull, I did not sit back and, I had to do things because nobody's going to do it except me. But that's the tenacity in me.
No, but I admire that. And that's how I think, because I don't do that. I send emails to writers and say, do you want my book done?
Yeah.
Do you want a book done?
Absolutely. I've gotten a couple of books that way, actually, reaching out to authors, finding them on Amazon. They don't have an audiobook. Send them an email. Here's a little clip. What do you think of this? What would you think? And I had one write me back and say, oh my God, I can't believe it. I just love, your interpretation of my book. And there we go.
Yeah, it feels good. So how about now? How do you feel in your job now?
Oh, I love this work. I mean, it's what I want to do. I am looking so forward to the day that I can say bye-bye to my corporate job, right? And just do this 100%. I mean, I know that I can keep myself busy all day, every day. But
do you have a marker that you've told yourself that you'll know when you can say goodbye to your corporate?
5 years. 5 years.
Oh, your plan.
Yeah, my plan. I definitely have a plan. It's going to be in my plan was summer of 2024. So we'll see. We'll see if that works. My 5-year plan may shift into 6, but we'll see.
It is. I've got to say, when you're on a corporate salary, it is really scary and hard, because I was literally sick. Like it almost killed me, that job. And I remember in like December, I wrote I'm leaving, but I didn't have the nerve. I've the money. So I said, I'm leaving August 2015. I was acting on the side on the weekends, but I was so sick. And I'm leaving August 2015. And I had a fractured pelvis. I couldn't move. And they called me up and said, we're making you redundant. My last day
really
on
needed
the book,
that health insurance.
Well, but my referral letter I'd written for August 1st, 2015. The last day I was paid on the books at that company was August 1st, 2015.
Oh my gosh.
So like, I think the universe knew that my sorry ass wasn't going to have the guts to quit. And the universe quit for
Yeah,
me.
we'll help
I mean,
you.
I got a fractured pelvis. I kept going into that job, no matter how much I hated it. Literally, I got a fractured pelvis without falling down. The doctor was like, you would only get this from falling out of a plane or being in a major car accident. I hadn't fallen anywhere.
You know, that's pretty woo-woo.
Yeah, that is. But it's like the actual truth. So I swear, I'm like you know, the universe kicks your butt enough, you become woo-woo.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm taking your story and I'm taking the extra time. So tell me, if you, oh, no, I'm going to save that question to last.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much, Barbara. I'm going to have one last question for each of you. I'm going to pull you back up, but Craig, you are on the floor.
All right.
Well, not on the floor. You're in the spotlight.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that.
So first book?
Yeah, so my first book was in June of 2020 when I think I got it within a week of filling out my profile on ACX, and it was a per finished hour offer, but it was very, very low.
But
And
still, per finished hour for your first book. Kudos.
right,
Not many of us have done that.
yeah. So it turned out to be this Italian business consultant who was convinced that he should take everything he knew about business improvement that he's learned from working with businesses and write a book about it. So it was nonfiction. It was somewhat business related and inspirational, but it was written in Italian. He had it translated to English, and he didn't have anybody really kind of check it. So I got the script, and there was a lot of things that were confusing and not making sense. And then I pointed those things out to him. I had never done a book. I didn't know what you're supposed to do back and forth with mistakes and grammar, and so that was a huge learning curve. But we muddled through it, and yeah, getting the the idea of opening up an email and seeing that somebody is offering to pay you to read their book,
Yeah.
Was huge. And then the second thing was being able to tell people, hey, go to Audible and search on my name.
Go to Audible.
Go to Audible. Yeah, go to Audible and search on my name. So that was cool. And so I got a couple other royalty share books, and because this was my plan for later, I got to that point and I said, okay, this is how this works. I apparently am good enough to get projects. And so I just kind of put it on the shelf and said, I'll spin it back up whenever I leave my corporate thing.
Okay.
And that was towards the end of 2020. And so, then, the pandemic happened and everything went weird. And my company told me that I was going to be redundant in September of 2021.
Isn't redundancy great? It's way better than quitting because they pay you money to get rid of you.
Exactly.
It was brilliant.
And I had worked for this company for 40 years. So
you got good money.
So I got good
Not
money.
being personal, obviously, but yeah, redundancy is brilliant. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. So now I left in 2021, and I was getting paid to restart this hobby or side hustle that I was going to do to keep me busy while I didn't do the corporate thing. And so that's when I reached my low point, because I took the information about getting picky, be careful, don't just do any book because it's offered to you. Make sure you're doing good books. You don't want those books in your portfolio.
Those transitions when you try to raise your level, they're the hardest.
Right.
Because
so I did that, and I wasn't getting any offers because I was only going for the high PFH books or the royalty share plus. And so I had a very long dry spell. So then, and I was trying to become more active in the audiobook narrator community. I found Anna Clements on Clubhouse and that whole community, and then I eventually joined up in Elise Arsenault's great audiobook adventure. I went to VO Atlanta, and you know, all these things were um, um, you know, working out for me. But that was after uh, my that's what brought me out of my low spot. How I got to my low spot was when I was in that lull. One of the things that people were saying was, well, get a coach, get somebody to, because I had some coaching, but it wasn't very good. It wasn't audiobook specific. And so I got some coaching, and that coach did an assessment, listened to my samples, looked at my website, looked at the books I had done, and basically I had booked him for an hour, and he cut me off at a half hour because he said, I don't think this is for you. I don't see it. I don't hear it. Maybe somebody else would, but I'm just telling you, you know, you may not be as good as you think you are.
Wow.
So he said, I do know some people that are, you know, more specific audiobook coaches. I can give you their names, and you know, you can try one of those. One of those was Johnny Heller. So I called Johnny Heller up. He called me back when he
We
was walking
love
his
Johnny. Can
dogs.
you just tell all of us?
Yeah,
I'm like, we love you, Johnny.
yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
So I told him, you know, the story, and he felt bad for me, just like this other coach. It's, you know, because like somebody took a lot of your money to give you crappy demos and crappy coaching. You
Okay.
didn't really get good training. And so he says, yeah, you know, book a couple sessions with me, and we'll see what you got. Um, and so my turning point with him was I was doing a demo where I was reading about this guy that's trying to lure this uh, probably this 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid into his car. You know, the stranger danger, the
Yeah.
a child abductor. And the first time I read it, we got done, and Johnny said, well, first of all, I really don't have any notes for you because that was excellent. Second of all, I don't have kids, but if I did, I wouldn't let them within 600 feet of you. You're a creep. So that's when I said, okay, well,
Well, now you know your
so
brand.
yeah. So I said, so I asked him, I said, so I do have it in me. And that was all I wanted to hear somebody
Yeah.
say. And he said, oh yeah, absolutely. So um, when I was signed up for VO Atlanta and APAC, virtual APAC at that time, he helped me get my demos up to what they are now on my website. And so
Oh,
we did all
lovely.
that ahead of APAC, ahead of VO Atlanta. And and I did some more coaching with him. I did some coaching with Scott Brick, and you know, um, and Barbara Henslee, through the community of narrators. She was the one that referred me to the publisher that I got my first PFH publisher job through last year. So
See?
yeah, and so it's just, and that's the other part of it is hearing the people that have come up through other acting channels talk about the audiobook community and how different it is and how real the people are, and they want everyone to succeed. No, really, they want everyone to succeed. Is one of the reasons why I feel like, you know, as long as I stick it out, um, you know, there's no reason for me to stop doing what I'm doing.
How
And
do you
with
feel now? How do you
well
feel
now,
now as a narrator when you go in? What are you focusing on? Are you in a more easy place now with it and feeling better? And
oh yeah, so
yeah,
yeah, so now yeah, I've had some good jobs, some good books, and I'm getting to figure out, you know, what the unique me is as far as my reading.
yeah,
I can't do everything. Nobody can do everything. Well, some people can, but I know I can't do everything. But Learning Ally, I did a nonfiction history, almost like textbook for them, they came back and gave me a YA science fiction space story with
Oh, wow.
bunches of characters and aliens and things. So, but I feel like, auditioning is the job.
Yeah.
And when you audition, you let it go. If it comes back, great. If not, it wasn't for you. And that was a big thing because I had never, I had a hard time separating I didn't get chosen because I either wasn't any good or they didn't like me. So I had to get past that to it's you either get picked or you don't. And if you
Yeah.
don't, you just keep going. If you do, you do the work. And then having the other thing I wanted to mention too is having accountability partners. And through the audiobook adventure, Isaac Vega and Danielle Gensler are two of my accountability partners. And just having those people check in and help you, and not be not so much accountable, but more, this is what I want to do by this time, and so I'm telling you so that I don't let you down, kind of a thing. Not you hold me accountable. It's just kind of verbalizing and saying, this is what I want to do, and if I don't do what I say I'm going to do, they're just going to ask me why, and that's what I'm going to do for them too. So
Okay,
that's
so now
really a big deal.
I've got you in the spotlight now, so I'm going to ask you the final question first, and then I'll have Barbara and Kim get a cheat because they have a heads up then. So if you're going to leave just like the very briefest advice, like what one thing would you want people to walk away? Because there are people of all different levels that watch these videos. Some people are considering whether to start their career. Some people have been doing it for a long time. What one thing would you wish that people would take away from this call?
Something that I wish somebody would have told me was that it's a long game, and the people that are still around are the people, quite frankly, who haven't quit yet.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's my favorite. Sean Pratt told me that when I started. He said he's seen so many people that had a lot of talent and that were very, very good, and they just quit right before it could have turned around for them. This is wonderful. Thank you so much, Craig. I'm grateful for your time today. This was brilliant. Kim, final words of advice. Thank you so much, Craig. Clear your throat, Kim, so you're pulled up on the spotlight. I still don't oh, there you are. Okay.
So I would say with both narrating when you are doing the book and in your business, get out of your own way. Just get out of your own way. When you're the story will lead you, the text will lead you. All the different coaches I've had have said that. It's like the text will lead you where you need to go if you let it. And with the business side of things, which a lot of us suck at, because I know I do, obviously.
Barbara with her 5-year plan.
I know. They make me so jealous.
I know. You piss me off. Sorry, go ahead.
but yeah, I mean, with the business side of things too, get out of your own way. If you're putting up roadblocks in front of yourself saying, oh, they said they wanted me, but they don't really. They did. Just the worst thing they can say is if you send them an email saying, hey, you said this, what's the worst thing that can happen? They can say just no or ghost you. But they may have actually meant it and been just sitting there waiting for you to say, hey, I have time now.
Yeah.
Get out of your own way.
Another priceless piece of information. You guys are gold. Thank you so much, Kim. Barbara, I really do. I'm just envious of your 5-year plan.
That's funny. Well, what is that? The right side of my brain? Is that right side? I can never remember then, but the craziness. So my advice for anybody and everybody is going to find themselves in a lull, find themselves in a slump. Everybody. I don't care if you're brand spanking new or if you've done 100 or 400 bucks. 400 bucks, 400 books. You're going to find yourself in a lull.
Yeah.
And I'm going to quote Chris Shula, who says, just stay.
I love Chris. Yes.
Just
Yes.
stay.
I
Because
actually
things will
had
turn
his
around.
call right when I was in like a horrible low of my career. And he was like, turns your brain around immediately. He's got such a great, just
Yeah.
stay. I love
Just
that.
stay. Mm-hmm.
I love that. So just stay, get out of your own way and hang on. Yeah. You guys, this call was everything and more than I hoped it would be. And I am so, so grateful for your time and your generosity and in being so open and telling your stories. And I don't think you realize how many people this will inspire and help throughout, the time that it's up. And thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that joined. You're all next level amazing. Mwah! Call will be out soon. Love you all. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
Bye. I'll send you the
Thank you,
chat
Daniela.
soon. Bye.